I first ran across this rigging method years ago, way before I started fishing the Nico rig, and it is called the Bungee Jumper rig. It is very, very similar, but there's a key difference here, and I'll tell you why I prefer this rig over the Nico because of that key difference. I first ran across it in one of these books, these little Bassmaster books that they send out in the mail to you probably over a dozen years ago. But first, let me show you how to rig the Bungee Jumper. Like I said, it's very similar to a Nico, but with a key difference. First, just use any standard trick worm, okay? This is just a 7-inch trick worm. Go ahead and cut off a little bit of the head so you have a nice flat base to it. All right, now you've got a couple options on this next part. You can use a traditional nail weight like you would with a Nico type rig. You can use it here, but I prefer to use a jig head, and I nip off the hook down here, okay, just up the shank a little bit, nip off the hook, and then I nip off the eye to make it a little more weedless. And like I said, if you want to be quicker, you can use a nail, insert nail, but I like this because I like the little bit of clicking or thumping or action that this creates when it hits different things on the lake or riverbed. And then I prefer to take just a little dab of super glue and put it on here, but then you insert this into that flat spot that you just cut into that trick worm. And the reason I like to use a little dab of glue there is because that weight will throw off, okay, unless you've got one with a nice little hook keeper on it. But this is just a cheap jig head, and it does not, and it will throw off. Now here's the part that I prefer over the Nico rig. Well, in the waters that I fish, there's a lot of vegetation, and I prefer this rig because it is, in my opinion, much more weedless, or at least I have better luck with it. I have used wide gap hooks, but probably one of the best ones is just a regular offset worm hook. And once you have it tied on to your line, then you go ahead and just thread that hook through, and then that offset works really nice, holds it up the eye of the hook on the outside of the worm, and then bring it back around and then insert it however you like down below. And this rig, you know, very similar to a Nico, just looks amazing in the water. Okay, a lot of times I will use it more in a vertical type of a presentation, just leave it sit there. It is a more of a taut line or tight line technique, obviously, if you're using a traditional plastic, because you want that tail to stand up. That's what makes this so effective. But it is also really good for a casting out and then, you know, bouncing along the bottom. So if you take a look at it here, it just has just this neat hopping type of an action to it. So I toss it out there, you know, kind of keep my rod tip at about that at 10 o'clock position, I would say, and just kind of give it little twitches along the bottom, and it just scoots and hops along. So nice, so appealing. If you have some bottom muck, some bottom vegetation, a little bit of char or grass, this stands up above and out of it, which is easier for the fish to see, let's say, in a lot of situations than, let's say, a Ned rig where you just got too much junk on the bottom and that Ned rig gets hidden or gets lost. So you can see with this type of stuff, these weeds, why I like this rigging method as opposed to the traditional Nico rig. I have caught a ton of fish on this Bungee Jumper rig, and also when you have it just sitting, once again, got a little bit of a tight line to it there, and you can just kind of quiver your hand, twitch your hand, and just, it has an amazing quivering action. Unlike the shaky head that pulls from the bottom, okay, the fact that this, like a Nico, pulls from the middle of the worm, it just has a different presentation, a different action. And hey, if you would like to watch a video on a type of structure that holds fish all the time, go ahead and check this one out right here, and make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.